Hey there, do you want to know what is it like to be an investment banking analyst? Or do you want to know how the companies are taken public? If not, maybe you're interested in knowing the work-life balance, or maybe the salary expectations. This episode is full of insights and jam-packed with a lot of information shared by one and only Vidur Thapar, who gets as transparent as he can. But I also have to mention, the information shared by him in this episode is solely his own opinion and not the reflection of the firm. So let's jump in and listen to Vidur Thapar on the Sarvesh Maria show.
Hi, Savesh. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Seeing all your podcasts till now, I was just waiting when would I have the chance to be on your show. Today is the day, I guess. So I'm very happy to be here. Telling the viewers about my background first. Come from a city called Ludhiana, Punjab, India. And I've done my schooling in Ludhiana only. Then I did my graduation in Bachelor's of Business Administration from Punjab itself. After that, post my BBA, decided to go for masters, and I appeared for the Common Admission Test, which is the countrywide entrance examination for getting into business schools. That was my motive, and I was fortunate enough to get a good percentile and then move into IIM. I did my masters in finance, MBA, masters in business administration, where I specialized in finance and marketing from the Indian Institute of Management, Raipur. IIM as we know it, basically. So that's a bit about my background itself. Post that, I got a campus placement opportunity itself in Bank of America, where right now I'm working as a global investment banking pitch book department analyst, as an analyst position. So GIB pitch book department investment banking analyst. Just a basis about myself, and yeah, today marks the 6 month anniversary of myself joining the organization. Exactly 6 months ago, 1st July, I joined the organization and have completed 6 months into it. Just a basis about myself.
And what you have to say about your last 6 month of experience.
Last 6 months have been wonderful. Yeah. First of all, as it is my first job, it has given me a lot of reality check, if I have to say. Starting out on your own, getting into it was a tough decision for me basically to not join my father's business and then move into the corporate sector. And then investment banking, as we know, is one of the tedious fields, one of the most demanding job roles. So yeah, I had always in myself that I want to get into finance, the high demand roles, as they say. And then getting into it, it was much more tedious as I expected. But right now, I'm not in the front end investment banking. I'm in the middle office work, wherein I don't get to interact with the clients. So we support the front end investment bankers who sit in the New York and London office, and then we help them in the pitch book preparation work, basically all the Excel and PowerPoint. So last 6 months have been pretty great. First of all, having the financial independence, earning on your own, and then sorting the life on your own has given me some sense of responsibilities also, and has made me more independent. Secondly, I think I've gained a lot more discipline, because when you work under someone else, you get to have the harsh reality of the world. Okay, whenever you have to apply for a leave or let's say anything else, you need to check with your manager. Everything, like just some little things which you which are not which were not used to before starting out on. So that's that. Fortunately, my working hours are not that much hectic as of now. So yeah, enjoying myself. Right now, I'm riding the learning curve, as this. I'm very happy about it. I guess that I will be continuing to do so in the near future.
Yeah, but
That's
for uh
6 months in.
yeah, that sounds like a good journey. But for some people who doesn't know about IB as much, will you go ahead and explain it?
Sure. So, to explain investment banking in very simple terms, there are two basic aspects of investment banking. First is the advisory function, and second is merger, and secondly is undertaking the mergers and acquisitions part of the things. Let's say you are an organization, you are doing pretty well, you were a private entity, and then finally you think that you've grown enough that you want to go to public. You want to go public, you want yourself to be listed on the stock exchange. So people then move on to investment bankers so that they can get the best valuation for their businesses, and then they can get themselves listed on the stock exchange and basically earn money through people. So that is what going public means. So yeah, we all know how big the industry is and how tough the industry is. There are players like Goldman Sachs, a JP Morgan, a Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. Everyone is fighting tooth and nail just to get your mandate, just to get your deal done. Because what we know that the amount involved here is in billions, and the deal value is in billions. So it is a pretty tough job, I would say. So that is why investment banking itself is one of the most coveted things, and that is what people aim for. Second part of it is underwriting and conducting mergers and acquisitions. Let's say that you are a pretty big entity, and then you want to get into a field which you think that you can get into a new country just not by setting your own operations there or by acquiring someone who is already there working. So that is when investment bankers come into play. There's two side of things, buy side and sell side of the things. Investment banking is basically sell side of things. On the sell side of things, so we present options. We first of all, the process goes at like we present a buyer a variety of options, basically in the form of strip profiles, wherein we give a just a teaser for the companies someone can buy. Then if he or she, that person or that CFO likes the some of those companies out of those strip profiles, we give them a detailed profile summary, and then deals happen. So many negotiations happen. So this is a lot about mergers and acquisition part of things. If you like someone, so what should be the best negotiation you could get into that industry? Pretty much, I would say that it's like a relationship thing only. When you are trusting someone with billions of dollars, you have to develop a strong relationship with them. Right now, the India operation where I am working, we are not into the front end service of things. We are into the back end service of things, wherein we support the front end bankers of New York and London to preparing the materials which are needed for deal execution. We call it the pitch book basically, which has all the details about the company, its profile, its financial summary, and all those things. My job is right now to work on the pitch books, to prepare pitch books which are needed for a company to give its summary basically. That is a lot about my job. Yeah.
So
So
let
let's say
me
that.
so let me
Yeah.
get clear here. So like for example, if I have a
Hmm.
company, I have a running business which is doing pretty well as it was
Yeah.
private, but now I want more growth and I want to go public. I come to
Yeah.
you guys and ask you guys to like I want to take my company public. So
True.
you are the ones who gonna do the paperwork for me and find the buyers for my business. Is that how it works?
So when you go public, it's not about getting the buyers. It's more about getting the appropriate valuation from your firm, deciding at what share price your firm should be listed on the stock exchange, and then to basically get you the best valuation. When we go public, it's you have to understand one side of things, that there won't be one single buyer who is going to have your business. They're going to be retail investors like you and me, common people who are going to invest in your business. So in that aspect, going public is not like a single person is going to own your company. The proportion of your shares which you get listed on the stock exchange, retail investors are going to apply on their IPO, which is the initial public offering. And if they get lucky enough, if the IPO is oversubscribed, people get allotted shares on pro rata basis, and that's how the companies get money. And somehow, if you're a private equity investor as well, who has invested in the company before it going public, so then you get returns on it, right? Let's say you invest in a company at a nascent stage when it is just starting out, you buy 10% of the company for million shares. But when goes public, it's valued at like, let's say, $1 billion. It's a 100% return for that company, right? If he will, then the private equity investors look for exiting the investments which they made by when the company goes public. So that's how it goes. Going public is basically inviting people to invest in your company. So that is what going public means basically.
Can it certainly be happen that all of the amount of shares were bought by like private equity firms?
It does happen. It does happen. But when those things happen, it does not invite the common public into offering. Many times we have seen that private investors invest in companies, right? So you must have been aware about the Shark Tank show itself. It is a prime example of that. So similarly, there are private equity companies, there are private investors who look for strategic expansions or sponsorship expansions. They're just in the business, they look for businesses who are undervalued, and then they look to invest in those companies. And they think that they can overturn the management, they can bring in changes in those companies, and then at a later stage, they can be sold off at a much higher valuation. That is what private equity investors are basically after. So they are
Okay.
just they're in the business to increase their money, right? So that goes itself. So private equity ownership and versus initial. So there are two sides of thing into finance. As I said, that investment banking is onto the sales side of things, and people generally after some years of experience in investment bank move into the private equity side of things, and that is the buy side of business, wherein you look for buying out companies who are undervalued and then later selling them at a higher valuation to, and the difference itself is called their bonus, their profits. That is what it involves.
Okay. But like you guys have been making so many deals. So is there
Mm.
a certain benchmark set up by the IB firms? Because I'm assuming like big firms like Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, wanna they don't wanna deal with or make or take any company public. There has to be a benchmark, like certain valuations that they only take big companies public or something.
Yeah, definitely benchmarkings are there, but again, right now I'll tell you one more thing, that the investment banking industry in 2023 has seen not very much rosy days. So right now, so it depends days to days. Some days when after COVID the valuations are skyrocketing, there are so many deals happening. Then you try to filter out definitely. So I won't be the best person to suggest what goes into the benchmarking or the criterias when it goes, because I've not yet worked into the front end side of things. I basically work after the deals have been executed and then preparing the materials for it. But yeah, I'm sure that there must be some criteria set. But having said that, like the year 2023 has not been very much rosy for investment banks. The deals have been the lowest since 2020. So the organizations, the banks are fighting to thin nail to get every deal possible. So that also goes when the days are not good. You obviously have to reduce your filters, your criteria. But again, yeah, there must be some benchmarking set. But as I said, I'm not yet worked into the front end side of things, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay. And then like how can an investor decide like he can become a from a like a normal small investor to a big private investor? How can they decide? Is there like some sort of paperwork they have to do before becoming a big private investor, or they just need more money behind them?
So basically, money is a very much big factor. Like we are retail investors, you can buy a share for like $1 of your savings, $100 of your savings. But when you are a private equity investor, you are looking for buying such big stakes in the company. So obviously, you need to have a lot of power behind you, a lot of financial power behind you. That is one thing. Then there are so many other things involved also. I'll just give you an example. Meticulousness and check on quality is the most important thing in our investment banking industry. Our MDs, our VPs usually say to us that you cannot even get a comma or a dot right in the presentation. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a private company, you want to go public. There is a Goldman running behind you. There is a JP Morgan running behind you. There's a Bank of America running behind you to get your mandate, to get you listed on the site, on the stock exchange. But when they will be presenting presentations to you, when billions of dollars are involved, let's say you are the CFO of the company and you say that there is a spelling mistake in the presentation, what impression will that give you? Like, oh man, this person cannot even get a presentation straight. How can he or she be trusted with billions of my dollars? So that is why meticulousness is needed so much in this industry. There's a tooth and nail fight going around all the time. Companies running behind. But we at Bank of America, our CFOs, our leaders have set a priority that we have to be top three in whatever we do. So That is what goes about it. You're coming to your question back that you have to be like some if something is needed to become a private equity investor, there is a lot of VC firms, venture capital firms, which hire students who are exceptionally well in studies or so, which can be hired into the private equity side of things directly. But if you want to start your own private equity business or something like that, you obviously need to have a lot of financial power behind you. That is one thing which is behind it.
Okay, and from the IB, like IB side of things, when IB is taking, some company public, so they're going to be charging commission from the company that is coming to them, or they're also going to be charging commission from the people who are buying it.
No, so the money which the investment banking firms are basically the percentage of commissions from the company which is going to get listed on public. As a retail investor, you or me or someone else do not has to give does not have to give any money to the companies except for the amount which they want to own the share ownership for. Nothing gets charged from the retail investors. Only the company which is going to be taken public. The percentage of commissions are charged from those only as advisory fees.
And can the IB firm keep some shares for themselves?
So again, that this is something which I'm not very sure of. I've not worked in the front end side of things. I'm not very sure of that. But yeah, there's a thing called as underwriting function. Let's say that I'm going to take you public. And underwriting is also a function of investment banking firms. Underwriting basically means that giving a guarantee to the company that if your shares are not 100% subscribed, let's say that you are coming out with an IPO for 50% of your shares for $50 billion, and only $45 billion worth of shares are subscribed, then there's a thing called as underwriting, in which the investment banking firms guarantee that they will subscribe the rest of the amount, or they will invite their prior clients onto it. That okay, so that it gives a guarantee to the company that 100% of its shares will be subscribed. Let's say there comes a situation where the shares are not subscribed 100%, and if the company has opted for the underwriting function, then the bank itself will try to get the shares subscribed 100%, be it from their own side or from their clients, prior clients, something like that goes on.
Okay, I'm gonna take you a little back over here for
Mhm.
for some people who don't know what is underwriting. Could you explain?
Sure. As I said, that underwriting is basically ensuring that a guarantee is given. The bank acts as a guarantor that your shares will be subscribed 100%. If it doesn't get subscribed 100%, it is the bank's job to do so. So the company basically, it's like insurance side of things, I would say, that your shares are going to be subscribed 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you also
Just a
mentioned,
disclaimer to all the viewers that I might be technically not 100% correct on what I'm speaking, but that is the core of things. What I said.
okay, and you also mentioned that you work on the back end while
Yes,
there is a front end as well.
true, true.
So could you list like several different like categories of jobs that people can work, because IB in general is a very broad term.
True, true, true. Yeah. So there is a front end side of things and there is a back end side of things as well. Front end side of things, basically the people who are working in the front end side of things, they are hired from all the premier institutions from across the universities across USA, Harvard or something like that. And then, even as I said, that it is a very meticulous job. You have to be exceptionally, I would say, that an intellectual person to get into investment banking front end side of things. It involves your personality should be such that you embark confidence. You should be very much well versed with the work you're going to do. So that involves the front end side of things. You are going to interact with the clients, the CFOs of billion-dollar firms. So that is why it is a much coveted job. You are going to present materials to them. When it comes to the back end side of things, we are the people working in the India office. The official name of our entity is BA Continuum India. It is not Bank of America India. As per the rules, if we do not have retail operations in the country, we cannot name our entity a bank. That is why our firm is known as BA Continuum India in India. And then we work on the materials which are going to be presented by the front end bankers to the clients itself. So we work on the Excel side of things, we work on the presentation side of things to make company profiles, and then valuations are undertaken in the comp set which we prepare. So yeah, that is the backend side of things. Getting into my job role in a country like India, let's say, they they hire from the premier institutions who have done MBA in finance. Like this year, for my role, people were hired from IIM Udaipur, IIM Raipur, and all the other institutions. As per compliance, I'm not bound to say all the names. That is what goes behind it.
Okay, but let
Yeah.
me rephrase it. So
Hmm.
first I'll ask you, like, how would you explain it in a professional term, the kind of job you're doing?
Okay, so in professional side of things, I am an analyst right now. I've entered the job as an analyst. The core part of my job is to conduct researches about, from whether it is company filings, whether it is other publicly available information or official news sites or something like that, about what is going on with the company. And then let's say a company is offering a new share, company is getting into mergers and acquisitions or something like that. So core part of my job is to conduct research analysis about the companies I'm working on. In the investment banking side of things also, the departments are divided within different industries. I'm into the consumer and retail industry, and working as an analyst, we work in the companies which we get to interact on a daily basis. Let's say the luxury firms, something like a Prada, something like a Moncler, or basic casual dining restaurants, basic clothes companies, retail companies, something like that. I work on those side of things. And as an analyst, there are two side of my jobs. First of all is working on the presentation side of things. We prepare company profiles wherein we describe the companies, what they do, what their financial summary has been. Then there is the financial side of things, where we work on the benchmarkings, the valuation side of things, computing a company's enterprise value. There are a term known as EBITDA, which all the people who are working in finance must be aware of, and then creating charts out of that just to benchmark the company's performance in the past years or expected performance in the coming years. The Excel side of things. So that is the crux of the job I do. It is divided into two parts: the Excel side of things and the point of things. The PowerPoint side of things displays the company's profiles, and the Excel side of things shows a summary of the company's financial performances. That is the
Okay,
core of the job.
and like,
As we step on the ladder, the other roles which someone working in the investment banking industry steps on the ladder, there are roles of a senior analyst. Then you work as an associate, then as an assistant vice president, and finally a VP, and then an MD. That is the corporate ladder in the investment banking side of things.
okay, and first thing, the industry you were asked to work for, or let me rephrase this, the industry you're working for, was it your choice to decide if you want to work for the consumer industry, or it was given to you?
So it was not my choice as per se, but I'm sure that the management must have seen something, they must have analyzed before dividing the people into some different industries. But it was not my choice as per se.
Okay, and then let's say a company comes to, I'll say an entrepreneur comes to you to take his company public, and you guys do the all the valuations, and you find private equity, then you wanna take the company public.
Mhm.
What is the process like? What other firms or other, like, people come in the middle from, like, I'm pretty sure like there is a framework that takes a company public from your hands to the retail investor that trades stocks, like other
So yeah, there is a complete process which goes about this. You first have to file your prospectus, showing your financial backgrounds and everything like that. That is the basis of investment banking. That you have to file with the SEC in USA. That you have to file your prospectus. You have to give a summary of what you do. You have to underline that at what price your shares will be listed as, and all the other information like what your company does, what the management is, and everything related to that. There's a proper process which has to be followed. Then, then the mandate passes, then only it is allowed to be listed on the stock exchanges. But as I said, all the functions of those things are done by the front office things, the front office people. We basically come into the picture when the deal have happened, and then we support in the material preparation only. So I won't be the best person to answer what goes around the process. My job role involves about creating the materials which have to be presented to the bankers after the deal have been happened. So I come into the picture, right? I won't be the best person to answer what goes around when a company wants to get into it. That is obviously right now, and in my role itself, I desire to move into the front office side of things because that is much more dynamic. That is much more challenging, and it gives you the whole macro side of things, what goes into the picture. As of now, my role only involves about creating the materials. I'm not very sure how the process goes about it, but yeah, I just desire to move into the front office things.
So
That is
given
much more challenging and complex.
so given that you're working in a back end in right now,
True. Mhm.
do you still have to network just as much as the front office?
No, that is, I would say that that is the only part of job that out of my job that is something I would like to change. We don't get to interact with the clients. The only networking we have is with the front office bankers and our management.
Okay. And how is the work-life balance for you right now?
I would say the work-life balance is pretty chill when it is compared to other organizations or to the front office side of things. I usually log into the office at around 10:30 a.m. We start the work around 11 a.m. let's say, and usually on days which are not hectic enough, we wind up the work by 8 p.m. So it is not hectic. I won't say that when it comes to investment banking, I don't think this is hectic at all. My work-life balance is pretty chill. That is a bonus point. Okay, if there is a negative thing that I don't get to interact with clients or something else, there's a positive side to it that my back end side of things also allow me to have a work-life balance, a flexibility. So that is a good part of things. I can the rest of the time is mine and mine enough. Only I can do whatever I want before the working hours. And as compared to a front office side of things, when a deal is going on, the front office bankers do not even get a weekend off. They're usually logged in 16, 17 hours a day. I'll mail them when I'm logging in, I'll mail them when I'm logging out, and they would just reply me in an instant. So the front office people are very, very hardworking. I would say that our job right now in the middle office is not as challenging as them, and we get a pretty chill work-life balance.
Okay, and did you have to pass some kind of certifications to attain this job, or just a MBA degree will be good
So
enough?
basically, there was a requirement that I have to do a master's of business administration, that too with a specialization in finance. That was the requirement, and then the interview process which goes, that was also pretty hard to crack. I would say that I prepared like crazily for this interview and to get into this job role. It was my dream role to get into. But if there were any more certifications needed, they were not mandatory as per se for applying. But yeah, if you are a CFA, you have cleared CFA level 1, 2, or 3, whatever, that gives you an edge over the competitors. So after joining the organization, also, the organization promotes you to do certifications like the CFA because it adds value to you, but it was not mandatory. The only requirement which was mandatory that I should have been doing an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, that is an IA, and that too with a specialization in finance. That was the requirements for getting the shortlist.
I ask this because in US you have to pass a SIE, which is the basic requirement to get into securities industry, and then
Okay.
you have to pass specialization exams like it's at least that's what they say over there with like
Mhm.
series 7, 6, 63, and these are all linked to different special jobs that you're going to be working in. Like I know, like if you are going to work in insurance, there's like different exam. If you're going to work for like just selling side, there's different exam. Like a buddy of mine working for, you know, Fidelity, and he gave like 2 or 3 exams that are just linked to like him selling products and services.
I'm sure that they are a requirement when you are working in the security trading industry. Right now, my job role doesn't require anything related to securities. In fact, we have a very strong compliance wherein we are not allowed to trade into securities without getting the permission, the compliance permission for it. Even if we have to buy one stock of any entity, we have to first get a clearance for it, and it is globally the same for every investment banking person. We have to get clearances. But as we talked about special certifications, I'm sure that there must be a requirement when you trade into, when you're working in the security trading side of things. As for my role itself, there were not many. But yeah, finance is a very vast side of things. Sarvesh, even I working into this industry, I'm right now not pretty sure about what other aspects of finance are there. There must be so many which I'm not very much aware of. So finance is a very vast side of things. There are different requirements for every different role. For my role itself, I know best for my role only. There were not any specializations, or there were not any certifications necessary for this particular role. But yeah, there must be for other roles, as you correctly mentioned.
Okay, and what are you looking like going into the future? Are you looking to pass, you mentioned CFA. Do you think it's gonna help you, and are you looking to do that?
So, as I'll be very honest with you, I have a goal of getting into the front office side of things, and a CFA will definitely help me attaining that. But right now, I'm just on the riding on the learning curve. I think that my first priority right now is to get the basics right. I'm just 6 months into the job, so there are so many things for me to learn in the job itself. My target is to first get through and first be good enough in the work that I'm doing. Then I have a target to get into the CFA, the Chartered Financial Assistant. That is something I aim to do, but not in the near future. My near future goal is to just be good enough in my job role itself. And then, if future permits, if I look to move into the front office side of things, CFA would be a lot of CFA would add a lot of value. That is a good option.
Okay, and you mentioned that you have a strong compliance for the IB by these big
True.
firms, and you mentioned about trading of stocks. So can't you
Correct.
even purchase securities for yourself in your personal account?
So, as I mentioned, you're correct. I cannot without a prior permission. So, because there is a morality and there is a legality aligned to it. Let's say that I'm working on a deal and I'm aware that okay, XYZ company is going to purchase ABC company, and if both of the organizations are listed, and then I tend to buy the shares of the organizations, knowing that after the merger is announced, the shares will skyrocket for both of them. So that is one of the reasons the compliance issue arises. So in the entire investment banking industries, this is a part, a form of insider trading, I would say. So that is why we are not allowed to trade in securities without getting a prior permission. You can get a permission from the compliance team. It is a pretty simple process, but again, the permission is required. Even if you have to buy a single trade, if there is someone, if I want to buy, or even my spouse would want to buy a single trade, we have to first get a permission for that. We have to get a clearance, and then we can do the same.
What
Again,
about
same for selling the stocks as well.
what about your parents and immediate family members?
So all of my dependents have to get a permission. My parents, if they are making their own money, they do not require a permission. It goes like that, because obviously they're going to do the trading on their through their own will, through their own money. So that is why they are not required. But if someone is dependent on me, on my earnings, then they have to get a permission or a clearance for the same.
Okay, I
Right?
know I
I
have
think
a
it might sound a bit tedious, but if you look on the macro side of things, it is a very right thing, you know, because if you have some information which is not public, you should not be making use of it for your own benefit. That's as simple as that.
correct, correct. I think that is well understandable, and I have to talk so much and I have so many questions for you, but I'm gonna wrap it up with two questions.
Sure, sure, sure.
First question, what is the best advice you got after you joined IB at Bank of America? And second question, because you wanna move into the front end, what if the
Sure.
opportunity comes from North America? Would you like to move?
Yeah. So first of all, the advice when it comes, I would say that as I mentioned about it earlier, also that we have to be pretty meticulous and aware of what we are doing. That is something I don't. My one of our VPs just gave a simple example that there's a JP Morgan, there's a Goldman Sachs running for a mandate, okay, and then you are there working, and then you miss a comma or a dot. As I mentioned this in the podcast before also, what impression would that sort? So you have to be accountable for your job. You should not treat it that okay, this is just a part of my work, and if I'm done with it, then there doesn't involve any more accountability or responsibility. My seniors who are doing pretty well in the job, when I asked them, they said that just be accountable enough for your job, even if ask as many questions as you can, because when you are going to be 100% sure, when your seniors and managers are seeing that okay, this person takes the responsibilities, he expresses leadership skills, and he's something we can rely upon, then definitely you will be getting noticed, and then you will be rewarded for the same. So yeah, be accountable for your own work, be responsible for the work you are doing. That is the best advice that I've got. And then second question which you asked, that if given an opportunity to move to North America, would I be able to? I would say that given the current status, that okay, I'm a young boy, I'm not having any more responsibilities in terms of family side of things, like I'm not married yet, I'm not having a wife or a spouse which I have to see. So at this age, I would be willing to work, I'm flexible to moving around if it gives me better career opportunities, better job roles to work for. Yeah, that is something which I would look to do in the as the current side of thing goes. But even in the near future, let's say that you are settled, you have a family, then would you be moving at that time? I guess not. So yeah, right now, if the opportunity comes around my corner, I would be much happy to grab it and just learn as much as I can. That pretty much sums it.
Okay, and what is a salary range they can expect being a first year moving into this
Sure.
industry?
Sure. So the salary ranges, I would say they vary pretty much. So if people are listening to it in, as I said, from the front end side of things, investment banking pays a lot. But as I said that if you're working 17, 18 hours of a day and you are not getting weekend, then you have to get paid a lot. So the pay is pretty much comparative to the work you do. And when it speak in terms of the India side of things, the role I am working on, so as per compliance, I'm not allowed to speak out the correct exact number, but I would give you a side of things that when I was in my MBA, if I being a fresher, if I opted on for a marketing role or a sales role, then I would not be making as much as I'm making right now, and my pay is pretty much close to what the people who are working in marketing or sales with 3 or 4 years of experience they're making. My pay is pretty much similar to that. So this industry pays a lot. There is no shortcoming on the money side of things, but it again involves a lot of work. It involves a lot of hard work if you're willing to do so. And then the front office side of things, it pays much more, much more. But again, if you're willing to like devote 100 hours a week for this job is for you, it will compensate you fairly.